Ask any Muslim what the penalty is for leaving political Islam. It's death. I have any number of videos of imams in America, modern day America, preaching sedition, open sedition against the U.S. Constitution and the laws of this land.
Communism is the greatest threat to our country in its history, including even World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 9/11. I think it's the greatest threat. If you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country.
Well, we're continuing this journey together into the realm of the unknown evil that has plagued our country, our earth, for so long. The evil of communism under the umbrella of Islam, the fraud and theft of our money to enrich evil, and the names that continue to drop for the public to see only strengthen our resolve and keep us in prayer for our children and their future. It is heartbreaking to see what they are doing to the country, but it is calming to know that we've been told it had to be this way to wake up the brainwashed. 514,000 followers on Rumble. That's our go-to for free speech. If you're watching on YouTube, remember that, because YouTube will take me down any day. They hate our channel. Here we have the leaderboard. We're number 3 again, next to Dan Bongino and some guy named Crowder. And we really appreciate hitting that like button and the comments below. And we've got this as a reminder for you.
Our new And We Know bracelets connect you with scripture with just the tap of your phone. Simply tap your phone to the bracelet, click the pop-up, and there's a new verse every time. If you're feeling anxious, need to pray, or just want to see what God has for you in the moment, you can tap for a verse and pray over that situation. Now available online.
Online at amweknow.com. I'm bringing that in for you to look at. Our brand new website. It's got our latest episodes, our 2027 Alaska cruise, August 7th through 14th. We know a lot of you have seen that now. And we're asking for you, if you would, to get involved. At the top of our new website, get involved. You click on Patriot Showcase. Patriot Showcase is the place where you can send us pictures of folks wearing our gear. You can actually submit a photo. We're looking for those. We only have a few that are submitted a day. We used to get a whole bunch of them every single day. So we're asking for that so we can start playing those again on our videos. We really appreciate that in moving forward.
Every single day we're liberating our communities from the scourge of migrant crime. You saw what happened last week in Spain, where 60,000 migrants stampeded against the border, invaded and occupied the town, attacked innocent citizens, and rioted in the streets. And that's what communists want for America. That's what they were doing to us. Frankly, as bad as that looked, and it looked bad, what they did to us during Biden was worse, and they want to do it again. They want to do it again. The people of Nevada aren't going to let it happen, and your president's not going to let it happen. And so important that, again, we have the strongest border in the history of our country. But right here in Las Vegas, ICE recently arrested an illegal migrant who brutally stabbed and tried to murder his 2 roommates. He was violent. In Lyon County, ICE arrested an illegal alien convicted of 2 counts of sexually assaulting a child. He was vicious as you could be. The police almost didn't, and they are great. They are law enforcement. We have to have a hand for law enforcement. They said this was so bad, they almost didn't know what to do, but they did know. They take him away. That's why under the Trump administration, we will always stand with ICE and Border Patrol and law enforcement. We will always stand strong with law enforcement.
Remember this. Remember, as President Trump continues to give these speeches, there are still hundreds of thousands that have not heard him talk at all, that won't listen to him. But he has to continue to remind folks who forget what's going on around this earth. Now, there's a big announcement. I want to get to it right away from John Solomon. Folks, this is huge. This morning, well, yesterday morning, the White House Government Transparency Task Force released newly declassified documents exposing an FBI criminal investigation codenamed Oxford, comma. These documents show the FBI criminally investigated President Donald Trump beginning in May 2017 on the theory that he was acting as a Russian agent when he fired ex-FBI Director James Comey for mishandling the Clinton email case. Now, if you guys want that link, you can go in the description box below and you'll see the big announcement text. Click next to it and you can read this entire thing and get those documents, okay? At the time, this is from John Solomon, at the time the FBI opened this probe, its agents had already debunked the Steele dossier. Agents had already cleared Mike Flynn of collusion. Pete Strzok wrote Lisa's page, there was no big there. The Bureau was alerted Carter Page was a CIA asset and not a Russian stooge. And one of the lead agents on the case, William Barnett, had concluded he had seen no evidence of Russian collusion and wanted off the case because the investigation had become a bad game of Clue. And despite all that, the FBI still opened Oxford, comma, and used it as part of a campaign to get special counsel Robert Mueller appointed. Remember all that? It's been a while. Remarkably, the man who knew the real reason why Comey was fired for violating the Department of Justice policy in the Clinton probe, then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, allowed the case to go forward and authorized Mueller's appointment. You can download the documents and read them. The task force not only released the documents that President Trump and White House counsel Dave Warrington graciously declassified, but also assembled a stack of prior evidence that contradicted Oxford, comma's predicate for criminally investigating a sitting president. After you read them, weigh in on your opinion. Should Special U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova treat the opening of Oxford, comma as an overt act in a criminal conspiracy to violate President Trump's civil liberties? 92% so far say yes. Interesting, right? This C before D, Coates before D class. The month of August is traditionally very hot. You have more than you know. Interesting, right? August, and then we've got the D class and the information flowing out to the public. Joe Lang reminded everybody, remember the name Andrew McCabe. He better lawyer up. And remember, his two underling lovers, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Remember that Q drop 2158 from 2018? Panic in D.C. Lisa Page testifying against Peter Strzok? Question mark? Oh boy. First, Lisa Page flipped on Peter Strzok. Then Peter Strzok flipped on McCabe and Comey. Then you got a Q drop 3064. 2019. What did we learn this week? Page cooperating witness. Strzok cooperating witness. Next? Question mark? Comey and McCabe are panicked. And then you get Q drop 2156. Panic in D.C. Comey in communication with McCabe regarding testimony story. We have it all, and nothing can stop what's coming. Q drop 2113. Logical thinking. Month September. Public learned grand jury impaneled regarding McCabe. Coincidence? Follow the connections. We have it all. TikTok.
The Democrat communists in Congress claim to stand for working people, but every single one voted against our tax cuts. They voted against securing the border. They wanted open borders. The Democrats voted against securing the border. They want to raise your taxes to levels that you've never had to pay before. Remember this. They want to raise your taxes. All my life I've been watching politics, and I never knew I'd be doing this. Who the hell ever thought I'd be doing it? But all my life I've been watching, and every politician, Democrat, Republican, they always said, we will cut your taxes, even if they didn't have any intention of doing it. They always say it. I said, that guy is lying. He's not telling the truth. But I'd watch, we will cut your tax. These guys say we will raise your tax. They say we're going to raise your taxes. I never heard of anything. And then they actually get votes. The whole thing is crazy. But they voted against no tax on tips. They voted against no tax on overtime. They voted against no tax on Social Security. But when I say voted against, 100%. There wasn't one Democrat that voted in favor of these incredible things like voter ID and proof of citizenship. They voted against that, even though the actual Democrats, think of it, the Democrats want it. You know who doesn't want it? The politicians, because they'll never get elected again. If you had fair and strong elections, they would lose 25% of their base. They would never be elected again. And I'm trying to explain that to Republicans, but some of them don't quite understand it. They don't understand it because they're good people. They're good people. They don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot of crooked people in my life. They don't know how bad these people are. We got to get the Republicans to be tougher, especially in the Senate, especially in our Senate. Got to get the senators in there. They got to be tough. But they voted in favor of the transgender mutilization of your children. And they voted in favor of men and women's sports. Can you imagine?
Yep, these communists, Democrat communists now. He's lumping them all together as Democrats and communists all together in one. I'll show you this in a minute from J.D. Vance, but first, let's hear from Steve Miller about these communist candidates for office.
Well, I think they're going to be severely challenged come November as they've continued to nominate these true communist candidates. So look at Michigan, right? El Sayed. They're nominating communist candidates for office. The center of this country, the middle of this country, the mainstream of this country is going to thunderously reject the Democrats' embrace of communism. And the Sayed, you also have somebody, as you've talked about this evening, Sean, who campaigned, who embraced, who courted the endorsement of this execrable, heinous, deplorable, monstrous Hassan Piker, somebody who is...
So, all of this is playing out one day at a time. Al Sayed, Mamdani, all these names are starting to pop up everywhere. And J.D. Vance had this to say.
This is exactly what El Sayed and these limousine socialists are actually selling to the American people. They're not promising you industry. They're not promising you good jobs. They're not promising self-sufficiency and a good industrial economy. What they're promising is redistribution. Again, we've seen this in Europe and in the United States. The idea that you can build real prosperity by just redistributing assets from one group to another group, that's not how you build real prosperity. You have to actually sustain the foundation of the economy. That is what the President of the United States has worked us towards for the past 18 months. It's going to continue to pay dividends. But I think, again, Laura, this is an important point. A lot of Americans look at this rising tide of socialism and say, how did we get here? We got here by 40 years of bipartisan leaders selling our industrial base to foreign countries, allowing low-wage immigrants to come in and compete with Americans for jobs, by destroying the foundation of the middle class. That's how you got socialism. How you fix that problem is by doubling down on Donald Trump's economic nationalism, not going back to the way we've done things for the past 40 years.
It's failed everywhere it's tried.
It's failed everywhere it's tried, and it always leads to socialism. It always leads exactly where we are. The only way to get out of it is to double down on the economics of the past 18 months.
Yeah. Double down. Now, we're going to get into the communism information more, and Al Sayed, great take from Zeke Arkham on that, and some more. We have witnesses. Mr. Kyle Schindler, I believe is how you say his name, a counterterrorism expert, testified about Abdul El Sayed. Stay around. We're going to get into that. We're living in a world where plastic is no longer just around us, it's inside us.
And we start with a new study on the impact of microplastics, which found human brains contained as much plastic as a plastic spoon, which is up 50% from 2016.
What we're finding is in the brains of people who have dementia, there's actually higher amounts of microplastics.
And these microplastics don't stay just in your brain. When that ecosystem is disrupted, your health can suffer, triggering inflammation, high blood sugar, and oxidative stress, the leading driver of cancer. The good news is that while you can avoid microplastics entirely, you can support your gut and help your body fight back. That's where kimchi comes in. Certain probiotic strains found in kimchi have demonstrated the ability to not only remove toxins like BPA, new research is also exploring how these same beneficial bacteria may help bind and excrete microplastics before they can go and do further damage. Kimchi is one of the world's most powerful superfoods, but its strong taste and smell can make daily use a challenge. So Kimchi 1 gives you all the benefits of fermented kimchi in an easy-to-take capsule without the mess or hassle. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains like enzymes and antioxidants that help restore balance in your gut. People are seeing improvements in digestion, bloating, regularity, energy, and metabolism. Studies show that kimchi can even reduce the risk of obesity by 31.8%. Kimchi 1 is made with all natural, non-GMO ingredients and 100% made in the USA. I personally love knowing that I'm supporting my gut, immune system, and overall health with one simple daily capsule. If you're looking for an easy way to help your body fight back against today's toxic environment, Kimchi 1 is it. You can get 25% off your order by going to the link below, or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore and they'll give you up to 50% off plus free shipping. Call 888-317-9941. The first 100 callers to order will also get a free bottle of vitamin D3. Again, you can only get the 50% off, free shipping, and free bottle of vitamin D3 when you call. Once again, that number is 888-317-9941.
As communism is the greatest threat to our country in its history, including even World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 9/11. I think it's the greatest threat. I could be the greatest communist in history. I tell everybody here, would you like a free house? We'll take one from your neighbor. Would you like free rent? We'll take it from whoever. We'll take your building away from the landlord that makes 2%, and we'll run the building ourselves. What they don't say, and what Republicans should say, is that at the end of a year, you'll have nothing but death, squalor, poverty. You'll have a life of hell. And that's what happens every single time. You look at Venezuela, where it was such a rich country 20 years ago, 22 years ago, and it happened, and we've really helped them, and we're going to help them. But, you know, they're lucky because they're sitting on massive oil reserves, but we are going to help the people that we want to help. But every time this has happened, and you do that, you go through squalor, and add the word again, filth, crime, death, destruction, embarrassment. You lose your home, you lose your apartment, and that's where the communists will take us 100%. When I watch Abdul, so, if you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country. And I was right. What I didn't say is what they're trying to do, they want to skip socialism. They want to go right down to the bottom of the barrel. That's communism. They want it to be a communist country. We're not letting them have it as a communist country, not even for a minute. Not even for a minute. Together we will defeat communism, socialism, and Marxism in America once and for all. It's defeated. It's going to go down. It always goes down, but sometimes it takes a lot of people with it. It takes too long. You got to nip it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud. You know, President Trump had this to say, great news for the Republican Party. El Sayed, the one that he just basically said what most of us think, we're not willing to say it, right? A communist loser who hates Jews and Israel is the projected winner in his race with the socialists. As usual, the polls were way off on this one. She was not expected to do nearly as well as she did. Now the Democrats' crazy policies will only get worse. Huh. He also said Wayne County, Detroit, Michigan is one of the most corrupt voting areas in the United States, if not the world. It is strictly third world. Miracles happen in Wayne County, including more votes being cast than there are voters by a lot. Therefore, the communist, who is not liked in Detroit, is potentially in vote counter trouble. The radical left socialist has a real shot, and don't discount all those fake mail-in ballots that will surprisingly show up at the last moment. Get ready for another rigged election in November. We must vote for Mike Rogers and make Michigan too big to rig. Now, let's go back to El Sayed, shall we? Michigan Democrat Senate candidate Abdul Al Sayed. Who would ever thought we'd hear that name in the United States of America? And then we'll have Zeke talk about it.
On whether or not people, as a function of the color of their skin, could be enslaved by other people. Founded under the idea that all people are created equal, all men, but that only meant certain men and not women.
Your parents were immigrants who came to this country, chose to come here, and now, instead of being appreciative that you're not back in Egypt, you're sitting here condemning the origins of this country because you want to gain some points with your Islamic buddies over there in Michigan where you're running for Senate, which I guess you won. I guess congratulations. Please, Michigan, step up and make sure this man is nowhere near our Senate. Please, do us all a favor. You already screwed up with Rashida Tlaib. Make sure this man does not go anywhere near our Senate, please. Johnny did the same thing on July 4th, lecturing this country on what it does and what it doesn't do and how he's so much better and he can improve things. And this guy's doing the same thing. And his parents were immigrants, could have stayed in their own country, but came here. Are you going to talk about the Islamic slave trade, which actually lasted longer than the transatlantic slave trade? You going to discuss that? Or nah, we just going to pick and choose what we're angry about, right? Because we're not going to discuss that. How the Muslims had a far stronger and stricter slave trade in the same region. But no, you're just, when they founded this country, some men were created equal. We fought and died to end slavery here. What did you do? What did your ancestors do over in their country, huh? Tether? Oh, and while we're discussing women, are we going to talk about how women are treated back in your home country of Egypt? Back where your ancestors are? Back in other Islamic nations? Are we going to talk about how women are treated there? Or is that too just an unspoken of topic?
So let's get into Kyle Schdeler, counterterrorism expert, testified about Abdul El Sayed's candidacy.
Does Abdul El Sayed's candidacy for senator in Michigan concern you?
Yes, sir, it does.
Why is that?
Well, to begin with, I look at the connections that his father-in-law, Chakaku Taib, has to Brotherhood-linked groups. This includes being the president at one time of CARE Michigan, also his presence on the Islamic Society of North America Founders Committee, which is only for those most exclusively devoted to ISNA and provides significant amounts of funding. There are other known Brotherhood members on that committee. I would also look at El Sayed's ties to a group called Mgage, which purports to be a Muslim sort of get out the vote or candidate recruitment organization, but it has close ties to CARE. It was created by a former CARE member who at one time was on a terror watch list and was also a consultant to convicted terrorist Sami al-Arian.
Do you believe the Islamic Society of North America, or ISNA, is an ongoing part of the Muslim Brotherhood network in the United States?
Yes, sir, I do. There were some HLF documents that reflected hesitation by the Brotherhood that they thought perhaps they were losing control of ISNA at one point, but they appear to have rectified that. As far as I can tell, there are still individuals associated with the Muslim Brotherhood who are in high leadership positions with that organization, and they have never repudiated their ties to the organization.
Never repudiated. I'm going to show you some other things on the voting side that happened. We talk about Saeed, but let's talk about some of the victories. Trump endorsement continues to be the most powerful weapon in politics. He said, I was 28-1 last night on endorsements, and numerous of them were outliers. But if you studied the fake news, you would think it was just the opposite, 1 in 28. All they talked about was the one. And that's why they call it the fake news. So they just go after President. Oh, this one guy endorsed didn't get through. But they don't want you to know about the 28 that did. Interesting numbers, 281 on the cue board. Ultra Magadine caught this. We represent you. Never forget that. We never will. MAGA. Make America Great Again. Other things dealing with the elections. This came up about the Save America Act and part of the recess deal.
I just came from a very productive meeting with Senate Republicans, and the conversation has shifted in a very favorable direction. We're talking now much more about how best to do this, not whether to stay and work on the Save America Act, but what procedural vehicle to use in order to get this thing done. So, look, I always, this is a step-by-step process. I don't want to proclaim victory, but the conversation has moved in a favorable direction. I want to thank Senate Majority Leader John Thune and our whip, John Barrasso, for leading a very productive discussion today.
So those two realities are there. Now, is there somewhere in here with budget reconciliation that we can do pieces of the Save America Act, or at least in a fiscal way deal with funding for some of those things? Maybe, and we'll see what the traffic will bear on that. We're having conversations, as you know, right now about that proposition, so we'll keep you posted.
Leader Thune, one of the members of your isolated by the president. He says he wants you to stay in session, wants you to pass the Save America Act.
Well, I think the president, I've heard from a couple times this morning on issues that he cares about. I wouldn't say I'm isolated, no. I mean, I've been very clear about the prospects for the Save America Act, and the only thing I've said all along is we have voted on the Save America Act 5 times. It was the pending business on the floor of the Senate for over 2 weeks, and I am willing to, in any way possible, get that across the finish line if there is a path to do it. But there are 2 realities and 2 facts you have to deal with. And the first is there are no Democrats who are going to vote for this.
So we brought this up yesterday. We saw that clip. Now let's go into the fraud that's being captured by our vice president and his team. It's amazing what they're uncovering.
We are here to kick off what has at this point been an informal effort, which is working with Congress to help us combat fraud. So as you know, when the President of the United States started the Fraud Task Force and really set the federal government to taking a whole-of-government approach to the anti-fraud issue, that was mainly an administrative thing. That was something we were working with our colleagues at H&HS, at DOJ, at all of the various agencies of the federal government in trying to root out fraud. And I'd remind all of you and remind the American people and remind what these congressmen and senators don't need reminding, which is that fraud is really a dual victim crime. The most obvious victim, of course, is the American taxpayer, who has their hard-earned tax dollars stolen from them to enrich people who are violating our laws and taking advantage of our country. But I think more profoundly and more sadly, the second victim of fraud are the people who benefit from programs that the American people have set up in their generosity and in their kindness of spirit. And those programs don't function as well or don't even have the resources necessary to work because they've been stolen from by fraudsters. I think an example that is particularly close to my heart because we have a 2-week-old newborn at home is a program that we set up through the Medicaid program to actually provide high-quality health care to new moms and to newborn infants. To people who can't afford high-quality health care, we, as a generous nation, ensure that they have access to the resources that they need. And yet, we have, working with DOJ and others, we have identified, prosecuted a number of cases of people where they have taken from this program, not provided an ounce of service to a new mom or a young baby, and enriched themselves by literally taking money from the medical care of newborn infants. This is despicable behavior, and it's something that we've allowed to go on for too long in the United States of America.
So this White House task force to eliminate fraud top wins. They have this top 10 anti-fraud actions. Small business loan anti-fraud surge. SBA referred 562,000 borrowers, that's hard to say, with $22.2 billion in fraudulent PPP funds to Treasury for collections. Ending LA homelessness fraud. HUD suspended $220 million a year in payments to that whole thing. Protecting disaster relief funds. HUD suspended payments to Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority, recipient of $1.9 billion in disaster funds. Billion with a B, folks. Unemployment insurance fraud prevention. The anti-fraud surge saved $500 million plus via new integrity tools. Recovered $512 million in fraudulent UI loans. Unemployment insurance loans. Wow. Identified $1 billion in unused COVID-era prepaid debit cards. The DOJ and FBI criminal fraud enforcement. The FBI launched most wanted fraudsters list and captured 4 in the first 5 weeks. Medicaid fraud deferrals. CMS deferred over $2 billion from California and $500 million from Minnesota in federal funding. Another one, Snap retailer fraud crackdown had a $516 million saved. Medicaid fraud war room saved $200 million in the first 90 days. Medicare protection eliminated 800 fraudulent hospice home health providers, $1.4 billion saved with a B, and 900 fraudulent DME providers, $1.6 billion saved. Student loan fraud elimination. New FAFSA anti-fraud tool saving $1 billion in fiscal year 2025. New real-time system projected to stop $1 billion in fraudulent loans for fiscal year 2026. The NGO racket just got exposed. Federal Reserve data confirms that U.S. nonprofits are sitting on $14.2 trillion in assets, roughly half the national debt, and a massive chunk of that is your tax money funneled through non-governmental groups. Look at Family Endeavors in San Antonio. Doge just terminated their contract. They were pulling $18 million every month to keep an empty, illegal alien shelter operationally ready. 0 kids, empty beds, still cashing the checks. The contract landed in 2021, right after Biden transition team member Andrew Lorenzen Strait joined the nonprofit. Revenues exploded from $50 million to $658 million that same year. Then hit $1.1 billion in 2022. This is how the machine works. Government money, connected insiders, empty facilities, billions disappearing while Americans foot the bill. Doge is cutting. The numbers don't lie. The patriots are watching. Let's get back to these NGO payments. The Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing confirms the Party for Socialism and Liberation is foreign funded and funding and organizing mass protests against ICE.
Another far-left agitator group fomenting anti-ICE unrest is the foreign-funded Party for Socialism and Liberation, whose chapters mass mobilize their forces in major U.S. cities, many of them so-called sanctuaries or safe havens welcoming illegal immigration. At the time of the Los Angeles riots, PSL activated its followers from all corners of the country to take to the streets, rise up in solidarity, stage parallel protests, and force ICE out of LA, a rallying cry that has since been repurposed for cities targeted by federal immigration authorities. PSL's San Antonio arm explained to local press at the time that the more cities that oppose ICE operations through these pressure campaigns, the more difficult a federal crackdown becomes. PSL chapters, such as the ones operating in Washington, D.C. and Milwaukee, continue to convene ICE-out rallies to stop the raids. Most recently, PSL led an emergency march in Charlotte, where activists were seen waving Mexican flags to drive out Border Patrol and, quote, defeat the deportation machine. PSL Charlotte began circulating call to action material days before Border Patrol made landfall in North Carolina. A coalition of local and national organizations sponsored the protests, including 5051, one of the organizers behind the nationwide No Kings movement. Left unchecked, these powerful actors work in tandem to advance agendas harmful to the safety and security of the nation. Their shared objective is to obstruct the enforcement of U.S. immigration law, legislation that Congress enacted.
Now, we're going to get into the proposed mosque fight up in McKinney and what happened there, McKinney, Texas. some more information about Islam and how they operate and what they've been trying to tell people that they are planning to do to our country, and some more great comms in a moment. New Spring Wellness Center. Your all-natural one-stop shop for optimal brain health and overall wellness. They're out of Osage Beach, Lake of the Ozarks. Folks, I've been there twice now. You can reach out to Chad and Katie Burrow for support. Are you a loved one or a loved one struggling with addiction? At New Spring Wellness Center, they offer a proven outpatient program that addresses addiction recovery like no other. Their brain restoration program is designed to restore your health, eliminate cravings, and help you achieve lasting recovery. Folks, I have witnessed it for myself. The changes in people who had addictions. They have faith-based support, IV therapy. They have prayer and so much more. John N. said he had alcohol and brain fog. He said, I came to New Spring Wellness for alcohol and brain fog, something I've struggled with for over 30 years. I tried AA before, but this treatment was unique, different than anything else, and it offered a better outcome for me. My head feels so much clearer. My faith has deepened. I've made new friendships, and I have no desire for alcohol, completely different than just 2 weeks ago. Around day 5, I started to feel a real change. There's truly no comparison. I feel renewed. The people here are friendly, professional, and knowledgeable. The patient care is excellent. I'd absolutely recommend this to anyone. Amber was addicted to Xanax for 15 years before coming to New Spring Wellness. Tried the inpatient and outpatient programs, counseling, AA. I came to New Spring to ease withdrawal symptoms in a stress-free environment and to begin repairing my neural pathways. A family member who works in recovery told me about it. Almost instantly, my withdrawal symptoms eased, and I finally had time to focus on myself, surrounded by caring individuals. The emotional support and brain restoration formula made a real difference. By days 2 to 4, I had more energy and better focus. Folks, I've talked to people there, prayed with folks that have come through this program. It will change your life. Go in the description box below and click on that link to change your life or others forever. So if you guys didn't see it, we just saw a video clip. I'm going to zoom in on this one. Look what happens on your screen.
You know, the president had a nice life before this, and he chooses to get up every day and do this. I love that he did this.
Fox News, while they're reporting Trump departing for Los Angeles, all of a sudden you see the what? Emergency Broadcasting System colors. Like the EBS is getting closer and closer each day, huh? LASQ said that video, the EBS screen, actually posted at 12:54 by President Trump. 12:54 says POTUS today, Iron Eagle. 12:54, also you have 54, Q54, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. 12:54, remember, Iron Eagle, protection over our president, regardless of what is playing out for the public and what they're looking at. Let's look at the base of Democrat Party.
Well, I think what it tells us is that a lot of young Americans were sold a whole promise at the elite universities in our country. And that promise is that they were going to be able to go to college, get a degree, and everything was going to work out fine for them. I think in reality, actually, a lot of universities sold these kids a bill of goods. They gave them a lot of debt. They did not give them useful skills or a useful credential. And a lot of these kids are very angry. But that really is, if you look at the data, Laura, the base of the Democratic Party today is downwardly mobile, hyper-progressive, well-educated people. People, I think, who are sold a bill of goods by universities have a lot of debt, but not a good job to show for it.
All of the Democrats are getting tied more and more into the Islam, Muslim party. Communists is what we're being called. They're being called, I believe, by President Trump and more. And you remember McKinney, a lot of folks showed up to basically give their 2 cents on why they should not build a mosque there. In the end, I'll show you the screen if you're looking. McKinney, Texas, they didn't want that mosque. 2 fully packed rooms, standing room only in the lobbies. McKinney, Texas showed up. Hundreds of residents filled City Hall to the absolute limit to say one thing no more. They heard all the people for 5 hours. After all the folks exhausted, sharing as much information as they could, and I'm going to show you some of that, they still voted 7-0 to approve the massive new mosque complex anyway. Are they under demonic duress? Did they get some phone calls from some Muslims to let them know, hey, remember we paid you off, you better vote for us or else? That's the way I look at it. Are they that corrupt? Were they put into place where they're sitting in their chair because of illegal voting and somehow they got into power because of that? The people still showed up. And America is watching. It was actually on CBS News, Texas.
Start in McKinney tonight. This is where neighbors argued tonight, full-throated, over plans to build a new mosque. And it all kicked off when a U.S. congressman chimed in. You heard him at the top there. The property, as it's proposed, would sit right near Virginia Parkway and Crutcher Crossing. The McKinney Islamic Association says it wants to build a dedicated prayer area, gym, classrooms, cafeteria, and a community space. The group wants to develop the new property to accommodate their growing community, they say. But U.S. Representative Keith Self cautioned the council about the potential consequences of allowing plans to go through.
Look, you and I know matters of conscience. The freedom to choose our faith or not does not exist in political Islam. Ask any Muslim what the penalty is for leaving political Islam. It's death. I have any number of videos of imams in America, modern day America, preaching sedition, open sedition against the U.S. Constitution and the laws of this land.
Let's continue to listen to him. The entire speech was Representative Keith Self. You heard that. Proudly serving Texas' 3rd Congressional District, Christian husband and veteran.
Mayor and council, 1,400 years history of political Islam. You can't get away from it. I don't have time to talk about Syria, Egypt, Lebanon. I will talk about the 250,000, 250,000 non-Muslim girls abducted off of the streets of UK, modern times, passed around the members of the rape gang, put back on the street. Look, rape is horrific. Gang rape is horrific. But this was a demonstration of the dominance over man-made law, over the laws of the UK. It's as simple as that. The sad part is that the police have arrested some of these girls for public drunkenness because they don't want to be known as racist or Islamophobic. That's the saddest part about it besides the rape. Look, I know you're in the accommodation phase, but the intimidation phase follows quickly. It's already happening in cities in Texas. Child marriage, honor killings. Don't tell me it can't happen here because it's already happened in Texas, where you kill a member of your own family because they dishonored the family. Beating your wife, polygamy, all condoned under Sharia, political Islam. Look, you and I know matters of conscience. The freedom to choose our faith or not does not exist in political Islam. Ask any Muslim what the penalty is for leaving political Islam. It's death. I have any number of videos of imams in America, modern day America, preaching sedition, open sedition against the U.S. Constitution and the laws of this land. 1,400 years of history. You can't get away from it. This is your time, though. This is your moment of truth. This is your time for choosing. This is your time to choose to honor your oath that starts with the U.S. Constitution. There is no state cavalry coming to save you. This is your time. I yield back the balance of my time, and I'll say good night.
You know, there's another wonderful lady that stood up, and she said some very difficult things, but some truths that they needed to hear. Jessica Holsey, McKinney. And there's going to be a couple of things she says. So if you've got kids in the room, you don't want them to hear some of the things that Muslims have done to people and how what they did specifically to them. It has to do with body parts. You might want to close their ears for this one. Here we go.
I'm Jessica Holsey. I live in McKinney. On November the 3rd, 2015, that's over a decade ago, at least 12 Muslims bombed multiple locations in Paris, France, in an area called Bataclan, holding hostages for over an hour, all in the name of Allah. 130 dead, 683 maimed. Victims castrated, testicles shoved down their throats while they were still alive. Eyes gouged out with gun barrels. Pregnant women stabbed in the womb, one baby ripped out and left on the floor. Heads partially decapitated by broken bottles. The police found upstairs on the second floor intestines hanging on chandeliers. One survivor said, they laughed while cutting their heads. They said, this is for Caesarea, this is for Allah, as the other Muslim filmed. Now, that was in France, and it was a decade ago. We're in McKinney. Our Muslims are very nice. Well, the McKinney Islamic Association that Mayor Fuller referred to, and the proposed mosque and the proposed community center all teach the Quran. Quran 9.5 says, quote, fight and kill the disbelievers wherever you find them, end of quote. The Quran advocates violence. Ask the dead wife of Islam, Muhammad. Muhammad was arrested in his home, not 5 miles from here, on Broken Spur, McKinney, with blood on his hands in 2025. His wife was found in the closet, stabbed in the neck. The victims extend to not only to unbelievers, but to Muslims as well. This is an imminent threat to our community.
Thank you, Ms. Halsey. Next up, Luba Khan.
Yeah, they are on your screen. Voted against everything that they went up there to talk about, filling up that room and more. They went against all the people of McKay. So I saw this. You know, we've shown Sean Ryan with Josh Howerton, amazing interview he did with him. I put in the description box below that full interview with Josh Howerton if you want to see it with Sean Ryan. I listened to it. Great work there. Then I saw this from Bryce Crawford about Islam.
I think Islam is the Antichrist.
Really?
Yeah, and I say that confidently and boldly, and I'm not going to shy down from it. I love Muslims as people, but Islam as a religion is a religion of war and a religion of division and a religion of, if you don't do what I say, you will be punished for it. And I don't agree with it. The first half of the Quran feels very inclusive. Jews and Christians are people of the book. Look to the Torah, look to the Injil to confirm our scriptures. But as you continue to read the book of Islam, it becomes less inclusive and more exclusive. It's either our way or the highway. Here's the first stage. America's in the first stage right now. It looks like woke Islam. They're inclusive. You have Muslims who are okay with trans and homosexual ideologies, but if I went to the Gaza Strip as a gay man and I went in the street and said I am gay, before I could finish that sentence, I'd be murdered in the street. But here in America, the Muslims are okay with it. They're tolerating it. Why? Because they're the minority right now. They're trying to come in. Stage 2 is what's happening in Germany and in Europe. They've invaded that country and basically taken political power. And no, if you say something that you disagree with the Muslims, they're not going to physically hurt you, but you know what they're going to call you? They're going to call you an Islamophobe. You're Islamophobic. I'm not afraid of you, nor am I angry because I hate you as a moral person. I'm angry at what your religion is doing. I'm angry at the division it's causing. And then stage 3 is Islam that you would see in the Middle East. And that is, if you do not convert to Islam, alhamdulillah, they will kill you if you do not conform to their ways. And America's in stage 1. And I believe Islam is the Antichrist because if you look at the eschatology of what happens in Islam, the end times of Islam compared to the end times in Christianity, all the bad stuff for the Christians is like the good stuff for the Muslims.
Continuing on. They drain the welfare, outbreed the host, lobby for their own laws, build parallel power, then they take over. It's not immigration, it's conquest. James Woods says the Democrats are responsible for this when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were inviting 30 million invaders into our nation illegally. We mistakenly believed they were Hispanic in origin. Nope, military-age Muslims now have a foothold everywhere, and they're breeding like flies. If you're looking at your screen on your right, that's Dearborn, Michigan. These poor kids, draped up, covered up, and more. And these outfits that do not scream, "We love America," at all. Muslim Brotherhood leaders, they openly explain how they plan to conquer America and Europe and destroy Western civilizations.
700 years of our trial to conquer Europe by force failed. They did something wrong, very wrong. They tried for many years to conquer Europe through wars, only wars.
This is the soft Islamic conquest of the West. Basically, what the Islamic and again, I'm an Orthodox Muslim. What we couldn't do in the last, say, 20 years, now the West is doing it for us for free and even paying for it.
Allah permitted them to live off the infidel while they are subduing them. So it had sort of a parasitic type of attitude where they can live off of the host country, where their goal is to eventually eradicate the host culture and supplant it with Islam.
Now we're going to show you this.
Welcome to day 1 of a new series I will be doing, Things Muslims Don't Want You to Know Their Religion Calls on Them to Do. In today's episode, I will prove Islam wants to invade your country.
Islam will be in every household. Inshallah, the whole world is Muslim.
Aside from Muslims outright admitting it themselves, the key to understanding Islamic invasion comes from Muhammad's conquering of Medina. It happened in 3 different stages, and if you understand those stages, you'll see it happening around you in the world today. Step 1, the refugee. While Muhammad and his followers were facing persecution in Mecca, he got an invitation from a leader in Medina, a non-Muslim, to come and reside in Medina as refugees. So Muhammad, of course, obliged and moved many Muslims into Medina. Today, we see the same thing in Europe and parts of the United States, where Muslims come to our borders as refugees and are invited in by stupid, brain-dead politicians. Step 2, build influence. Once in Medina, Muhammad started building mosques, he started creating Muslim neighborhoods, he started converting citizens of Medina to Islam, he ousted other religious groups, and he grew their population substantially. Today in the West, you see this everywhere, especially in places like East London and Dearborn, Michigan, where there's mosques on every single street corner, blaring their calls to prayer, annoying non-Muslims in the area. There's areas that non-Muslims are not supposed to go, and the most common baby boy name is Muhammad. Step 3, taking over. They're not fully here yet, but they almost are. After establishing the Muslim population in Medina, Muhammad eventually took over political power. Aside from holding power himself, he made sure to appoint countless Muslims into positions of authority all over Medina. I again point to London and Dearborn, Michigan as my proof because the mayor's names are Sadiq Khan and Abdullah Hamoud. I definitely don't think an elderly Michigani or English grandma would have voted for people with those names. Now, certain low IQ individuals or people in denial might be denying this 3-step plan, so I point to Lebanon as my proof. Many people don't know that Lebanon was once a majority Maronite Christian country, but because of mass migration from Palestinian refugees who have 1 billion kids per family, it is now a Muslim-ran country with Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, as their government. Now, let me ask you a question. As an American, I see that in places like Dearborn, Michigan, Muslim families are having a gazillion kids. So what is my country doing to combat this obvious plot to conquer our country through demographic change? I'll tell you, we're aborting 1.1 million babies every single year. We have to do something, or we're going to be like Lebanon and Medina before it.
Yeah, it's interesting, these folks that are popping up all over social media, and the information continues to come out showing us exactly what's been happening in our country, just hidden, right, for many, many years. And we're capturing all of it, and it's starting to make more sense. You know, central banks are making significant gold purchases. We talk about this all the time. Why would they be doing that? What's actually going on around the world? Well, Dr. Kirk Elliott helped us out last Saturday. I hope you guys saw that interview. He figured it out. Shares just about every week how this is playing out. And you can reach out to him yourself, amweknow.com/gold in the description box below. And he will explain to you what's going on and why it's important to get in those precious metals as soon as you can. It is amazing what he provides for all of us. Saw this from Stephen A. Smith. He looks like he's visibly betrayed, says Vigilant Fox, as he reveals he took 3 of those COVID shots and wore a mask just like Fauci, and he still got COVID and almost killed him.
Do I think that he should be embarrassed for the self-adulation that he engaged in? You damn right I do. Because some of the things that he was telling us to do was inconsistent with science, but he was telling us it was science that led to him making the decisions that he made. Masking, 6 feet distancing, the closing of businesses, forcing businesses to push those mandates upon people like me and others. Because I took the vaccine and I took a booster and I wore a mask. And we were told, hey, you ain't going to get COVID if you do that. And I got COVID. It almost killed me. Going into 2022, I'm in the hospital 90 minutes before the ball is about to drop. And the doctor says, we've been at this for 3+ weeks. You got double pneumonia. You look really bad. If this antibiotic and this steroid does not work, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, we're going to have to call your family. It looks that bad, but we should know in 3 hours. And through the grace of God, 3 hours later, I felt better after they gave me that steroid and that antibiotic. But those were the longest 3 hours of my life because I thought it was over. And I remember I had done exactly what Dr. Anthony Fauci was imploring us all to do.
You know, all that with Fauci seems like it was a long time ago, but we have to keep the reminders up. Stephen A. Smith definitely did it, and a lot of folks are going to wake up. I mean, there are people that were against this. They supported Fauci. They worshiped the ground that he walked on, and there's, conspiracy theory, this, blah, blah, blah. People scared that actually already got the shot, and, I don't want to hear it anymore. Well, it's all coming out, and now guys like Stephen A. Smith making their voice heard to a lot of people that won't listen to anybody else, but they'll listen to him. They're going to have debates with their family members, and they're going to start talking about it more and saying, hey, something's going on with this Fauci character. Did you guys see it? Oh, yeah. The next thing you know, conversations are being held. We start understanding even more so why this guy pleaded the fifth. President Trump put this out. The U.S. has massive amounts of munitions, especially of certain types. Additionally, large amounts are being manufactured and shipped to the U.S. as needed. Defense companies are building the largest number of plants and factories in our country's history. The leakers of these treasonous statements are being hunted down. Long-term jail sentences will be sought. President DJT. Ultra Magadim was all over this. He starts with this, U.S. has massive amounts of munitions, right? Ends it by the leakers of these treasonous statements hunted down. He posts this at 12:34 a.m. Well, 34, if you take out the, 12:30 a.m., you actually take out and make it 0034 military time. Well, that's Q34. My fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we are taking back our great country. Near the bottom of this statement on Q34, it says this: we will be initiating the Emergency Broadcast System, EMS, during this time in an effort to provide a direct message avoiding the fake news to all citizens. Remember earlier we showed you kind of the test from Fox News with the Emergency Broadcast System, just kind of popped out of nowhere. Organizations and or people that wish to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury. Certain laws have been pre-lifted to provide our great military the necessary authority to handle and conduct these operations at home and abroad. This sounds exactly like the leakers of these treasonous statements are being hunted down. The Q-Post speaks for itself as President Trump is letting us know it's about to get real. The EBS is coming as these traitors are being hunted down and arrested. Also, an undeniable calm from Dan Scavino. He posted a 3-second video of President Trump grabbing a huge bag of popcorn and has that stamp of 12:04 a.m., which is 4 on the cue board. Some of us come here to drop crumbs, just crumbs. POTUS is 100% insulated. Insulated? Well, the comms are getting clear as Dan shows us President Trump grabbing a bag of popcorn, right? And trusting the president, and he's 100% insulated, reassuring us that the Patriots in control. You know, he also posted President Trump surrounded by the generals. Why is he surrounded by generals, right? Grab your popcorn, sit back and enjoy the show. We started with President Trump speaking with no tax on tips in Las Vegas, Nevada. Look at this and listen.
But we're rocking and we're rolling. This country is great. What's happening to this country is great. And, ultimately they're not going to be able to stop this because what's happening is too good. But think of that.
Sounds like nothing can stop what is coming. Now, I noticed when he said that, he says, nothing's going to stop this. And he did his finger. See where he does the mark, the point. He does the circle and then the little tick at the end, which is what? When he does that, right? What does it look like? See, it goes around and then he does the little tick at the end. Q. Nothing's going to be able to stop us.
And, ultimately they're not going to be able to stop this.
They're not going to be able to stop this. The enemy's not going to be able to stop this. Stop this what? The information that's coming out. The comms are going out through the Q board and more. Ultimately, everything's going to be great in the end. That reminder is given to us day in and day out. And his burner account, Il Donato Trumpo, says nothing can stop what's coming. It's got President Trump walking through the fire. We don't worship this man, but we look to him and say, hey, our Heavenly Father, I believe, appointed him for a time as this to finally destroy our enemy one day at a time and expose to the people exactly what they've been doing for many years. And it took somebody who was hit with his abilities, his strength, his fortitude to push back and finally destroy them. And it's great to behold.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we are grateful to you, our King, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. We see exactly how you've been playing this all out for us to wake up. We're constantly getting bombarded with information that there's another group of politicians, political group, playing communist, socialist, Islam all together as one, doing all they can to try to take over our country. They've established themselves, and many throughout Europe have been affected. Many women have been destroyed. Lives have been hurt. Children have been destroyed. You see it. You know this well. And we just bring this before you as leadership steps up, that you would help us in our endeavors, each individual, what we can do in our own world, in our own way of trying to watch this play out and watch you destroy that, their very efforts to destroy our freedoms and our Constitution. We come before you asking for protection over our president, over those on the front lines, those that are fighting that will probably not know their names, their families that are praying for them daily for their protection. We ask that there be continued revival of our nation, of people waking up and realizing that things are so dark, there's got to be light, and they look to you and realize, man, I heard there was a verse that said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man goes to the Father but by me. And that's Jesus Christ, the light of the world. We bring that before him today. His name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you so much, folks, for following us, for subscribing, following, hitting that like button, and more. We've got so much going on behind the scenes, so many meetings, so many things have been playing out recently, and your prayers have helped us through this all. We look forward to the cruise. It'll be here before you know it, even though it's a year away. Man, it goes so fast. We look forward to meeting many of you then. For now, this LT Semper Fi with them we know. Signing out.
Muslim, what the penalty is for leaving political Islam. It's death. I have any number of videos of imams in America, modern day America, preaching sedition, open sedition, against the U.S. Constitution and the laws of this land.
Communism is the greatest threat to our country in its history, including even World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 9/11. I think it's the greatest threat. If you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country.